I think that's Mike. Is that Mike from around the world?
God bless you, Pastor Paul. How you doing this evening?
Well, I had the eye surgery, so I'm kind of backing out. And Heidi's here to host it. I am blessed and highly favored, though, my brother.
All right.
So Heidi's here,
I'm
so
gonna.
get ready, Mike. You better put your seatbelt on because you know she has all the tough questions.
Yep, I got it, and I got the brain case on just in case.
That's right. You definitely need that. Now get me out of the way. Now you got somebody intellectually on your level.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, Heidi, good to see you. God bless you.
God bless. How are you today?
Good. I just sat down, so hopefully
Uh-huh.
everything holds up here.
Hopefully. Hopefully. So what's going on?
What's not going on? We have everything going on.
Yeah?
Everything.
Mm-hmm. We still got fallout happening?
Of course, yeah, that will continue for a while. We have there are data chunks coming in, and I want to address something too. A lot of people, right? They have access to public sensors, data, stuff like that, right?
Okay.
Well, normally with any type of event that comes outside of the solar system internally, nobody hears about it until about a year later. Same thing happened in 2004, December 27, 2004. We had an event. Actually, 2004, 2006, 2000, on up to 2022. And they are not cataloged until they are released and peer reviewed, scrubbed, all that good stuff. And so I just want everybody to note, because sometimes you have people out there say, I didn't see anything. Well, of course you didn't, because you're using public sensors and published data. They're not going to put that out there until about a year later. So, yeah, it remains somewhat of an enigma. That keeps everybody somewhat neutral, because if a person's out there trying to research, they have nothing to rely upon except data. If the Lord did not give it to them, or if they're not, right there in the seat observing, they have no idea. So that's how that works. At any rate, we're being, we still have an influx of those cosmic rays coming in. And now they just don't, just so everybody gets the idea, they always are hitting the heliosphere. It's why we have the heliosphere. Galactic cosmic rays always come in. But we do have, when you have a pulse, when you have a sheer increase of influx of these particles, that's where you have problems from, because they're always pouring in either from the sun or externally from the heliosphere, or deep in space hitting the heliosphere.
Right.
I'm trying not to get nerdy, because then you have to deal with the particle count, which deals with health. For example, 89% of the some of the protons that are coming in, they will affect people's health. Alpha particles are certainly going to affect electronics. Other nuclei, which constitute probably about 1%, but at a very high rate, they're going to affect things in a weird way. And we have a buildup happening, and they will continue to be this way. This is going to continue to happen. People will begin to have radiation sickness. That'll be a norm. Part of it's already a norm, but that will become a norm, and it will continue to increase, because we have many more events coming.
So do we have a date on the next pulse? Would you call it a pulse?
Yeah, we have one. Actually, we have it's kind of like a threefold event happening at the end of at mid-month next month, and we're going to have to get closer to that so we can really pick this apart and see what's going to happen, because as we continue to have these pulses, we're getting closer and closer to one of the major events, is what it's actually coming up to. In other words, we've had some activity in space, many, well, let's just say it's continuous, and it's been tracked, and it's very dangerous. Now, obviously, if something is going to cause severe damage to the Earth, they will not publish anything, but people will be, they're going to be firsthand witnesses of the effects that are going to, happen afterwards. So this is a situation we are in. For example, we talked about I think we talked about inbounds. Remember, we did talk about inbounds, and I said that nobody knows that we have an inbound coming in. It's not published anywhere, but when it gets here, all of a sudden everybody's an expert. So we have lots of inbound objects come in that they're not listed. You may find a couple of them listed as they come in, but they won't talk about them unless they either don't pose a risk or everybody can start to see them. And in this case, they will cause a risk. So they're not going to talk about them, but amateur astronomers, they're going to pick this up and start talking about it. They're going to have to cover it because we'll see a greater density of objects coming right towards us. Meteor storms are going to become a normal.
Meteor storms.
Yes, not meteor showers, but meteor storms. That's actual aerial bursting, ground burst that we'll have that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you said the alpha waves, would that cause like heart attacks, interfere with the cardiac?
Alpha particles, when they, of course, that's about 9% of the cosmic radiation. Cosmic radiation, by the way, is in two parts. It's in from the sun. High energy particles stemming from the sun, those are mostly protons. High energy particles from deep in space they are of another variant, very exotic particles, but most of them, 89% of protons. Alpha particles are somewhere around 9%, and they cause a severe problem. The 1% causes a lot of inert elements to become explosive, activate, it changes them. But this 9% of the alpha particles, once we get that heavy influx, as in 2004, it starts to affect the brain big time. Biological elements get affected. Of course, this they're called high Z energy ions. They also are in those galactic cosmic rays, and they are extremely dangerous. In fact, they spend a lot of money to find out how to shield spacecraft and astronauts from these high Z energy ions in space. That's only 1% of the galactic cosmic rays, by the way, and but they cause severe biological damage. And we're going to start experiencing that on the Earth. We already have, to a degree, in sporadic areas. Of course, they're not going to tell everybody that our shielding is down sometimes to a degree that these particles penetrate. Because I'll tell you something. When they start coming in, there's something you look for, and they start hitting in the high altitude, the entirety of the sky in those areas is going to turn red. It's going to turn red. That means we're having high altitude collisions, right? That's red, of course, has the longest wavelength, and so of light. So we're going to see that red color. That's not a good sign. It may be captivating, but it's not going to be a good sign. And when we start to experience that, biological issues are going to follow immediately after. Immediately. But they're, again, if we're reaching a point of no return, they're going to make preparations for themselves. You're going to have a lot of rich people that will make preparations for themselves. And the activity we have in the world is exactly what you would have if you have these high-end corporations, high-positioned folks and people. If they're going to prepare, they would maneuver the world just like it's being maneuvered today to make sure that they are preserved during that time. You'd have all this. You'd have supply issues. You would have, I believe we talked before the new year, we talked about a governmental civil war. That's a very notable statement. I use that term because nobody, that term is not found anywhere, but that's precisely what we're having. Is we're gearing up to have a governmental civil war. They're about to thrust in a brand new system. And the only way to do that is to disprove the old. They have to convince everybody and get everybody involved, sick of the older system, of what they trusted in so much, they have to bring it down piece by piece. In this case, they have to do it fast because the time span has been collapsed. They thought they had more time in certain areas to do certain things. That's not the case. So we're going to see an escalation of activities from these guys.
Yeah, so everything's been moved up.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
when you say the biological, are you talking neurological then?
Yes. Big time. Which, by the way, which is why they have. There are a lot of projects out there that are specifically put forward. A lot of money spent in these areas to protect certain individuals from any of this influx of these galactic cosmic rays or radiation period, so they can be sustained, so they can be preserved during that time. And if you think about it, if anybody looks into these projects, especially dealing with the brain and your neurological system, every single project that has computers involved and AI involved, right? If you can reconstitute the human brain and the neurological system in a computer, in other words, map it. If you can do that, you can also repair damage or replace broken pieces or affected pieces of individuals who have been exposed and shouldn't have been exposed. We haven't, but that would be no good if you didn't have some sort of project dealing with magnetism. It's a known fact that radiation follows electromagnetic field lines, right? So those lines of force, if you can replicate them, you can essentially redirect radiation anywhere you want it to be. You can put a bubble over a city, for example, and radiation will not penetrate the city. It will follow those lines of force to any direction they want, right? Now look at CERN, a part of CERN. They have super magnets that are, you're talking about something that was achieved. And if you look into it, they spent a lot of time and a lot of money on the magnets. They have to be perfect. The computer system that runs the magnets, because they have to be energized at specific times to keep those high charged particles in that tubing. So that's precise timing. Well, if you can do that, you can also redirect any type of radiation bombardment over a city, over half of a country. They can do that with the magnets at CERN right now. They can do that right now with the magnets at CERN. And so I believe it was, who was it? BP Earthwatch that was talking about every time they turn CERN on, something happens with the magnetic field. Well, that exposed something. But I know for a fact people didn't like that. Let's put it that way. They didn't like that, and that was unexpected. But in fact, that's one of the greatest discoveries, one of the greatest experiments. It's very solid, and it works. That plane that went down, for example, when they lost containment and the protons shot out of CERN itself, it didn't really hurt anybody, but it went right through an aircraft. And I believe CERN is down like 14 or 15 aircraft since that time.
Wow.
Because if you lose containment with those magnets, those protons are traveling at a very fast rate. And then they hit electronics, they're going to fry. They have to be contained. And that was more than likely the case with quite a few things, because they will go straight up. Well, that should demonstrate that these magnets are certainly set up in place. And if you turn them on, they have an effective weapon against radiation, radioactive fallout, same thing, right? Because radiation is always going to follow those high-speed particles, are going to follow those lines of force and magnetism. Same way the Earth shields us from cosmic rays. It goes to the north and to the south polar regions, right? It's redirected over the whole Earth, taken into the Earth by those lines of force. So it's the same principle. And CERN has magnets that are much more powerful than the magnetic shielding of the Earth.
That's very interesting. Yeah. And so the next biggest CERN, it's not called CERN, is in right outside of Chicago, right?
Which one?
It's a Large Hadron Collider right outside of Chicago. I can't remember.
Yeah, they have two.
Yeah, the town's Batavia. Is it Batavia, Illinois?
Now that's a list I would have to pull up, but there are lots of them all over the place. And well, with that data collection that they utilize, and all of them, if you take note, New York has the same facility, right? They have the magnets, correct? Chicago has the magnets. They have magnets. They have that same system of containment in the larger cities. Even in China, they have the same facilities, that same technology is there. This is worldwide over key cities. So it almost looks like they're ready to preserve certain cities because they know what's going to happen in the celestials.
Mm,
So they can preserve certain cities,
I see.
and those cities those cities at their core are going to stand. Everything outside of that, it's going to be a lost cause.
Right. Right. Yeah. Somebody just put it up. It's like Fermi Lab in Batavia.
Yeah, that's one of them. There's well, I don't know. I'm gonna have to get a list of those things for you guys. I believe it's 142 facilities
There's a lot
in
of
the USA
facilities.
alone. That's
Yeah.
in the USA alone. At 142, that's pretty high count.
Yeah.
Plus the star cities,
Mhm.
3-star cities in China,
Mhm.
of course Israel and some other places. But
Mhm.
I guess one of my major points is that they're set up while they're doing CERN. CERN is doing one thing, and it's a very real project on many different levels.
Mhm.
But the one thing that is people can see right now for themselves is that these facilities are set up with super powerful magnets that can absolutely protect where whatever's around them. They can protect it. They can also direct these magnetic field lines in any direction they want. I believe it's 19 facilities have the ability to redirect those magnetic field lines and concentrate them to any point they want to, given a certain radius. That's called weaponization of these magnets. So if they want radiation to be concentrated in a certain place, they could absolutely do it.
Mhm.
And people wouldn't understand what was happening.
Mhm.
Just think about that one. Because if we have, if somebody had an aurora, and let's say it penetrated a little too far, they could actually redirect all that radiation to a specific point.
Mhm. Now that makes sense because yes, I was looking at the list and I saw that it was near the major cities and always always associated with universities, and so now that you're saying that, that makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. So there, and you have to look it up as Large Hadron Colliders. So then it'll make sense to you guys. The people in that chat rooms are saying, what kind of facilities are you talking about? So yeah, if you look it up that way, then you'll find it. So yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's actually they're trying to put in a protective network.
Yeah, they have one, that and among other things, because each place they're at is also a travel hub.
Mm-hmm.
Why would a travel hub be in the exact same places as those facilities?
Mm-hmm.
So all that is kind of like some of the talks that we have, me and Pastor Paul, and then stuff happens. It could be coincidence. It could be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Pastor Paul says I don't think so, but all these things line up. There's some sort of there's a plan underway. We know biblically that these guys have dedicated places they're going to go to.
Right. Right. And that would make sense because the drilling it takes to even make these round things to get these magnets in, it would only make sense.
That's right.
Yeah, to get the
that's right. That exposes a lot of technology.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of technology, because these are precise tunnels.
Mm-hmm.
These are laden with precise equipment, and this stuff is milled to is just very precise.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of technology, but the average person will not question. They won't look at that and say, well, how did they get that in there
Mm-hmm.
without everybody seeing? Or how are they transporting these large magnets and nobody saw it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Or these large coils and nobody knew they were ever in transition. How did they do this? And why are they positioned in these cities near travel hubs?
Mm-hmm.
And a few of them are at special airports that have special markings inside the airport. All those airports are identical.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's because if all this is real, they have to prepare and they have to do it quickly. And that takes what? I believe the last estimate was a 45-year plan. So they would have had to have started a long time ago to get this stuff going. And it takes a lot of money. I know a lot of people think that a large amount of the black budget goes into weaponry. But money is more of a construct that we have to survive. They don't need money. They're in control of it. They don't really need it. They do things to keep us engaged. They see people as subjects, more subjects than anything else, and we stay engaged while they prepare to save themselves. We are the laborers, and they utilize our minds and our gifts and abilities for their sakes. Because even everything that's invented, that's ingenious, they will snatch, they will take, they recruit from universities. This is every single year. Lots of kids disappear into black operations and the military-industrial complex, basically, to do research on things they can never tell anybody. In the USA right now, people would check out Google Earth and not look for anomalies so much, but secret cities. We have a lot of secret cities inside the USA. Well, for what? I mean, just like China, we have ghost cities in the USA. That's weird, right?
Right.
But they're planning. So if all this, my point is, if something is coming towards us, if we do have it, are in a binary system, and if all these things are beginning to happen, if the Bible is absolutely true and Revelation is true, they would have to be, 3/4 into preparations. And if they were, then the conditions we have right now is exactly what we're supposed to see. Governmental fights. We know the weather's changing. We know it's not HARP because HARP has been down. HARP is damaged. Isn't that funny? So is Russia's HARP. It's damaged due to sabotage. They can't use it. They even tried to seed with P3 Orions certain things, and it didn't work because the chemical composition of the atmosphere is laden with heavy particles they stuck up there to reflect the sun's light, and it's still not working. They've been desperately trying to cool the planet off. That's what they've been trying to do. And it's not working. And it has side effects, sure, and they utilize those side effects, but it's not working. Now you have icebergs turning over more and more. All these things are starting to happen, and everything is conflagrating. This year, it looks like, this year and next year, everything is conflagrating.
Right. 23 and 24 are going to be rough years.
They will. Yeah, it's already begun. I hope that, my hope is that people see it. Okay, let me not talk too much, Heidi, because my motors will get going, and that's it.
Yes. Well, so let's talk about Russia and what's happening over there. General Armageddon has been demoted. So what does that mean?
Valery, what's the guy's name? Gerasimov. He's the new fella. Well, you can't have he panned out to be a little too on the fruit ball side. He did. He was too aggressive against. He was more or less aggressive against the enemy, but he was not willing to do certain things against. He became soft with the people in Russia. Putin needs somebody who will enforce things, period. Right? That's how they work. He does not need anybody who's compromised. This other General Armageddon, he was compromised by certain groups inside of Russia, and Putin cannot trust anybody at this point. Not too many people at this point, and he's disloyal to a degree. He will enrich himself. He has some criminal activity connected with him, and so Putin said no. This other guy that's coming in, however, will enforce, for example, military protocol, both in country and out of country. He will enforce it. He is a tactical guy, yes, but he also has relationships, international relationships that can be utilized because Russia's not only dealing with in their part of the world, but they're also activating in the Middle East. They also have to negotiate and continue to do side operations with China and North Korea and places like that. So this guy may prove to be, highly effective. This, by the way, Russia is at war with the West and its alliances, period. And vice versa. This is not just the Ukraine. The Ukraine is it's just a base, you could say, a stepping stone. and it's going to become quite large here shortly. The Middle East is activating, for example. There's going to be a lot of military movements in the Middle East, and somebody's going to do a first strike in the Middle East, probably, I would say, within the next 2 months, because they have to. Things have escalated quite a bit there, and they're going to take advantage of it. Now, the USA doesn't want anybody to do anything prior to elections. That's going to be very important. But this governmental civil war in the United States is going to get in the way of quite a few things, possibly. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. Things will escalate because they want to see where people are. In the end of things, Sister Heidi, they need people to give over their praise to what they're doing. That's what they need. They need people's praise. They always need that. They need people to be a part of it. They need people to get their hands dirty. So they get people riled up, and then people pick a side, not really understanding that all sides are tainted. And they pick a side and start fighting against something they may not know the totality of. And they need people. If they wanted to, I heard a guy say they want to kill everybody. Well, they could have done that 1,000 times over. They don't want that. They want people to corrupt themselves. They don't want anybody to be redeemable. They don't. And they are highly Luciferian at their core. And they can't, the age of Christ, they continue to say, they say this all the time, the age of Christ the rule of Christ must end, period. That's what their declaration is. It must end.
Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if you heard Pastor Paul do a story about where the Chagall, I think is his name, asked the Pentagon, was the U.S. using psychic warfare against the Russians? Did you hear that one?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
No, I didn't hear the question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Psychic warfare never ended.
Yeah.
It never ended. Can I give an example? Mm-hmm. I'm going to give an example. What makes a Christian, right? Nobody get angry either, but what makes a Christian cringe? It's when you thrust them into a political argument, right? Mm-hmm. You get a Christian to step into politics, they almost lose their Christianity, right? What is that? That's almost like you have to be programmed to cause somebody to do that without really realizing it. First of all, you have to believe what you're hearing to get emotional about it. So they have done an effective job at counterintelligence and all this psychic stuff and whatever, all the stuff they're doing to get people in position so that they will be overly charged. Because every time somebody fights for something, they're praising if you fight against one thing, you're actually praising something else. You're going to lift up one thing and put down the other. And that's what they want people to do. So, but how do they maneuver everybody into this? Constant little dirty secret plans. That's just like MK Ultra. That was only one element of a very large scaled operation that's still underway to this very day. And if a person's not careful, there are trigger words that they can hear that will set them on fire. They even have these public sacrifices that they will set up so that people will start buying into the story and give over their, I guess you could say, their soul to another cause again, right? They get charged doing this because every time a person gets into something like that, I guess you could say they're turning away from the principles of Christ. And that empowers them. That really empowers them. Psychically, they have people lined up all over the place. Any gifted person in the USA is going to be noticed. Any gifted person is going to be noticed. It used to be before they came out with a new phone system. Anybody who really conveyed any real ability to forecast anybody else's circumstances, they would tag their phones and everything else. They would. Now, they changed the protocol since times of old. They used to go and get people, just kind of snatch them up, drug them up, and they wouldn't know who they were, anything else, and then start utilizing them or pay them a lot of money, get them involved. They don't do that anymore. They found out if you leave a person to their own devices, especially with technology in place now, a person will volunteer everything they know. They'll always volunteer everything they know. Communications are not secure. Everybody agrees to a EULA when they use their cell phone, end user's license agreement. Your conversation, you just gave up to everybody else. Your text messages, you gave up to everybody else. Your replies, you gave up to everybody else. A machine interprets that. Right? But also the people who check the machines and inventory the machines, they're able to collect that data. And that EULA, in that EULA, we agree that they can do that. So there you are. They don't need to go and have the person work in an office. All they have to do is seed a conversation or seed some sort of issue, and people will talk about it. And they tag the gifted people and extract the information from.
Interesting.
That always happens.
Mm-hmm. So this is what they asked. They said the FSO is preparing personnel for massive ideological attack in which the enemy uses media, social networks, religious organizations, hypnosis, PSI generators. What are PSI generators?
Those are, well, you can call them an amplifier. Call them an amplifier. So we have some of the equipment. Let's talk about some of the older equipment. Because some of the older equipment was when they had tubes and things like that. They used to take some of these guys from Tibet, some of the guys that meditated, and they would put them in capsules, these big electronic capsules, and actually amplify their biological signals, which were essentially resonance signals or radio signals, to see if they had an effect externally. Well, they found out they did. In fact, Germany found this out first. They did it first, and they affected an entire populace. Right? They calmed an entire populace. That was a one day England was calmed. They didn't know what happened, but it was almost like everybody lost their will to fight. The next day, the next 2 days when they turned it off, everybody was raving mad. They were just charged up. But they essentially zapped an entire populace. They calmed them down. So with that, you can influence emotions, right? And that's one of the major things. Not so much making a person do something specifically, but if you can enhance certain emotions and deter others, you can control a populace. And if that technology was developed way back then in the 40s, right, you can only imagine what's being used today. They also have sound equipment. Some of the sound equipment, they know the resonance of every organ in the human body, right? It's already mapped. They know about the neurological system. It too is mapped. They know the resonance. I'm going to just say resonance. It's another term they use. I can't use that term there, but they know the resonance of all of what makes you work in the body. They can essentially begin to shut down certain nerve groups in a person. For example, somebody could be sitting there and all of a sudden their knees could hurt so bad they have to get up and move, right? When you get up and move, you find that it's almost like they never did hurt. You go sit in another place in your house, nothing. You go back to your desk at your computer, everything is amplified, right? That actually happens to people. If they'll be sitting behind a computer working on a specific thing, all of a sudden they have aches and pains they never thought they would ever have. They're uncomfortable, or they feel so irritated and aggravated they can't even look at the screen, so they have to get up and walk away. If they go anywhere else, they're at peace. They go back to the computer, that peace is disrupted. Right. So there you are. That's not just a fluke or a coincidence of resonance the machine is putting out. Things can be targeted that way. And ever since they came out with cell phones, every cell phone, in order for you to have a conversation, your exact location must be identified. Right? It has to be coordinated and identified. That means everybody who has a conversation, they know your exact position on the face of the earth, the entire conversation. In order for you to connect your phone to a network, they have to know your exact location. So that's triangulation. So they know where everybody is. Everybody is a number to a machine, and every person has a 4D profile with a rating on it, which means you're helpful or not, but it's a lot more levels than that. And if they can influence people that do specific things in certain ways. And they can do this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with a press of a button.
I think this is where Pastor Paul goes, what? Right now. What do you mean by a 4D profile?
Well, yeah, but 3 dimensions is what you see, right?
Uh-huh.
So 4D is what you don't see.
Mm-hmm.
A fourth dimension is something nobody sees, right? Mm-hmm. But a fourth dimension will be information that people aren't readily thinking about. When people go into Walmart, you'd be surprised to know you got a complete bone scan.
Mm-hmm.
They know the points of identification on your bone structure. Your bone structure normally does not change within gaps of, I believe it's 5 years apiece. And so everybody has, just like facial identification, they started out with 3,000 points to identify the face. Now they have 30,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your face is like a fingerprint.
Mm-hmm.
The whole body is like a fingerprint now. They have optics to see right through you. You're scanning your groceries. And if you notice, all you have to do is peek down in there. You got more than what is it? 5 lasers working in there. They used to have NCR, I believe the company was, that would go, specialized folks that would go in there and work on those things. Now they have very sophisticated scanning equipment. They scan more than groceries.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know they have these smart lights. They changed all the lights in Lafayette, and they're the weirdest lights you ever did see. I don't know what all they're scanning. And they put walls
They can,
up in them as well.
yeah, they can see in all spectrums.
Yeah.
But again, Sister Heidi, this is how they program this. People buy a car, right? You
Mhm.
expect to get a car. What you don't expect is for you to have X-ray reflective material in the seats, so they get better pictures of you inside and out,
Mhm.
right? Nobody expects that.
Mhm.
Now that sound, what is that? When you start thinking of things like this,
Mhm.
nobody can escape it. Nobody's going to escape it. No Christian should actually worry about it, because we never had privacy. Nobody has had privacy in 40 years. So, hate to tell them, they can listen through walls.
Mhm.
We have a false sense of security against these people, right? But here's my small advice concerning that. If people get worried about their security from the government listening, they might want to reconsider that God can hear everything, even your thoughts and everything else. So just all you have to do is think of that, and all of a sudden the government's no big deal.
Right.
But
Mhm.
just dealing with the car itself, nobody expects their car seats to be specially designed to reflect X-rays back into some other optics so you can be seen better.
Mhm.
This is how the world is constructed. And they're utilizing all these elements for the people, to get the people to do exactly what they want them to do and to keep them cataloged.
Right. And we were, I don't remember what movie or something we saw the other day, right, babe? And they were saying they were taking their, it was like that little mini EKG, and they were saying this is the new biometric. And I was like, well, Paul, they're selling that all over Amazon, telling you need to set this up with your doctor's office.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They, in fact, I believe they have chips. The same people, MIT folks that sent out and made the certain MCUs or microcontroller units,
Mhm.
now have lots of medical devices that anybody can go and buy.
Mhm.
Right? Anybody can go and buy those.
Right.
BCI devices are readily available for anybody who does computer development or hardware development. They can go and buy the interface that talks to your brain, right? That picks up your brain language. Now they have the interpreter chip, which means it used to be you could pick up waves from the brain.
Mhm.
Now you pick up the actual information from the brain, because what when they mapped the brain, they actually mapped the language of
Right.
all the neurons.
Right.
So they know the combinations of neurological firing, and it's now a language.
Mhm.
So they can essentially, they have units, handheld units, they can pass by you. If they get within a foot, or I think it's like 3 feet from you, right? Or if you get your head near something, they can actually read what you're thinking about.
Right.
Because
Right.
you're always transmitting something. It's always transmitting.
Mhm. Yeah.
So they've gone a long way.
Now, is that available to the public yet, or is just
Yes,
yes, it is.
yes,
That's
it
what they're
is.
saying.
It is. So it's much more sophisticated
Mhm.
in the hidden side of things.
Mhm. Yes, that's very interesting. Yeah, I just saw actually a facility here in Tampa and Naples that was doing the brain mapping of the brain waves, and they were using it for things like ADHD and and I think dementia as well, but ADHD for sure. And I was like, that is very, very interesting.
Yes, and that's on the public commercial side. Just imagine
Mhm.
what the architects have done when it began. What was it, 2004, going up to 2000? 7 and 9, just think what they have done, because it never ended, but it was completed a few years ago.
Right.
That whole initiative they have 2 operational brains inside their simulations, inside of computers that are operational, fully operational. So they mapped the entirety of the brain. Remember Obama's brain initiative?
Yes.
Well, if you follow that money, you'll find out it went to a lot of universities. It went to specific individuals. When they mapped the brain, everybody was inspired and said, hey, we can make the devices now, right? The only thing, like the B system technology, there was one thing they were missing. That's the power source. You can have all that fancy electronics, but what are you going to power it by?
Right.
Well, they perfected the power systems a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
The lithium, your phone batteries, that's about to be obsolete. Lithium is about to be obsolete. They're going to use that just like they do oil, so they can keep people under control. Because you can make people believe you need something, and when you do that, you can have them fight for a cause. Therefore, you keep them engaged. You can also control people that way.
Yeah. I actually signed up to follow the brain mapping, project that they're doing, and a lot of it was out of Israel.
Yeah, Israel makes a lot of, I would say most of the electronic advancements, technological advancements that we have in AI, that we have in, well, because that's the AI base, is going to be found in Israel. Same people who developed the cell phone. I believe it was a woman who made who initialized the cell phone. She made up the cell phone. That was in Israel. So a lot of the really advanced ideas come from Israel.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Not the rest of the world, just Israel. Everybody else kind of steals it, and they go from there. But Israel, they are incredibly blessed. They may not know it, but they are.
Yeah. I've been watching that for quite a while, so it's been very amazing. It's like the Genome Project is still going on as well.
Yeah. Yes, it is. The cure for cancer. There's some articles floating around that are not fake. And they're just not fake, man. That's another fight, because they keep the population controlled through medicine a lot. Or you could say it's like a Thorazine drip, and they keep people on a Thorazine drip, so to speak. You really can't have them too smart. So
right. Well, you know that we have a family full of nurses, and the healthcare has totally turned upside down, and it's not for the better. So
it's immoral.
Yeah.
It's too many immoral people involved, and it's it's got some dark spots in there.
Yeah. So you better get geared up and better get healthy the best you can, because it's not.
Hopefully people can downgrade their taste palates. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but food is changing. It does not taste the same. It does not. And there are laws out there. They don't have to tell people if GMO is in certain things anymore. So I hope people realize that. Those are very dangerous laws. They don't have to disclose certain ingredients. And when you start tasting it, well, there are lots of things I won't touch anymore.
Yeah.
I personally won't touch them. But things are changing, and it's changing fast.
Yeah, I heard somebody just the other day say the orange juice with pulp is not really juice and not really pulp. Yeah, it's like.
It's like Sunny Delight, right? You remember Sunny Delight? Everybody likes Sunny D, right? Sunny D was made out of all the rotten oranges that were left over. That's what it was made from. And it was pressed through a net to get all the bad stuff out. And people, they marketed that until they were sued a few times, but they kept selling it. And you could actually, because I tasted a Sunny Delight. I just picked one up. I didn't even realize it because it was in the commissary, and I picked it up and I put that in my mouth, and I can instantly taste rotten orange peelings. And so that didn't work. That didn't work.
No. They can make all this 3D meat now, and they don't have to tell you.
No, they don't. People have eaten it. People have eaten a lot. It's bad. That's a bad area to go into, because they do things to meat that the average person, they wouldn't understand, Sister Heidi.
No.
But they force people unknowingly. People have been indoctrinated
Mm-hmm.
into something. I'll tell you, without the blood of the Lamb, not one of us could make it.
Mm-mm.
It wouldn't matter how perfect we think we are. Without the blood of the Lamb, none of us would make it.
Exactly.
Because there are areas we can't, that we're engaging in. We have no clue what we're participating in.
No. And then when you get into, where Paul went through the marketplace and he couldn't eat the meat that was prayed over to the gods, I mean, we have
Yeah.
no idea.
Yeah. Because he knew, and that's rough. When a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people, they want to know everything, right? No,
Mm-hmm.
they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more you know, the more you're accountable for.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody could, like, just Paul couldn't eat that meat, but somebody could have came behind him. If they honestly knew nothing about it, they could eat the meat and would not be condemned by it. But
Right.
because Paul knew it,
Mm-hmm.
he had an obligation to uphold righteousness within himself, and he couldn't partake of it, no matter how hungry he was. So the more a person knows, the more they're going to find themselves with limitations on just about everything in this world.
Right. Right. And, that's what we've been working on, is trying to get healthy. And because, when the last pandemic came through, obesity and diabetes was the number one comorbidity. So, you have to try to take care of yourself.
It is, and that's good you're a nurse, because nutritionalists, I believe, they try to tell people certain things about combinations, like for example, kidney stones.
Mm-hmm.
People can go the medical route,
Mm-hmm.
but kidney stones normally are caused by the body making bad calcium
Mm-hmm.
due to a lack of calcium. And what do they tell everybody? That they're lactose intolerant. They found out what that actually is on the at the DNA base. They found out exactly what that is. That can be flipped and reversed in a couple days. Isn't that funny?
Well, you need to tell
There's a
me.
lot of findings
You
like
need to
that
tell
that are
me what
coming
that
out.
is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are a lot of, and diabetes, same thing. That was more or less induced on people.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like these grounded planes. People, they come out with these. People see grounded planes and they come out and say, "Well, what did it? I think it was a computer bug." Really?
Mm-hmm.
Right? But they didn't know the first day. That'd be the first thing they would identify. Here's what they never told anybody. What was it, a day ago? Canada had the same problem. Did you know that?
I heard something about Canada, but I didn't know the specifics.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Their aircraft did it too, but that wasn't the only place. It happened overseas in a couple of places too. So
Mm-hmm.
there's something greater. That's why everybody came on board, and they're trying to come on board to sell a story, so everybody believes it, and everybody is. If they come out concerned, right? This is a tactic.
Mm-hmm.
You have an important person, they come out, they're very concerned because they'll say they don't know. They have to look concerned. Once they give everybody a solution and the people say, that's what it is, the populace calms down. That means they messed up.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it means, they messed up.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's good to look right through that. I'll give you a coincidence. You ready?
Okay.
17 events, right?
Right.
17 events, 17 dead in
Mm-hmm.
California.
Okay.
Coincidence, or somebody? What's happening with that? Look at all these lineups, and then ask yourself again, what's happening here, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are people out there all the time. They're trying to tell people a narrative. They're hoping they get it. There's only so much a person can say, and they have to stay enigmatic, puzzling, confusing, and everything else. But things are closer than what people think.
Mm-hmm.
And without notification, without people really understanding and knowing, a lot of people are going to find themselves in a very strange predicament, very unfortunate predicament. My hope, well, a lot of people's hope, is that they don't find themselves in that predicament.
Right.
But the only security is a spiritual security. Everything else will most certainly fail.
Exactly.
Everything else is going to fail. But with spiritual security, just like God did supernatural things a long time ago, and he already told us, he still does it, but not like he did in times of old. But that's coming back, where he will supernaturally protect people, as in the days of old.
Amen.
The deliverance is coming just like Israel was delivered. And a lot of people, because they don't see it, they're not used to it, they don't really believe it. But there are people out there trying to tell them a narrative of the impossible, because the impossible is soon to take place yet again. And I hope that people are ready. They're trying to get people subtle messages, and people should listen. These repeated phrases, if you see them and find them, they'll capture your attention. I hope that people are paying attention because they actually mean something. Certainly in this day and age, time is shorter than what anybody thinks. And the events are much closer to home than what any of us would like.
Mm-hmm.
But I hope that people get that. I hope they get that.
Right. So what's the next thing we need to be ready for?
Everything we talked about, Heidi. We have the Earth is going to another phase of phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
The Earth is, and as you may or may not know, they're soon to introduce the unthinkable is on its way. It's on its way, and that'll be the unthinkable people will be introduced to. It's on its way, and that will be one of those by force things to some, but to others they will absolutely accept it. You're looking at a time coming. A lot of people talk about the beast kingdom, but have they ever considered what happens when it gets here? Because in the Bible, didn't it say that this beast must be revealed? That means we're going to see the system itself. We're not going to be. We don't have to be a part of it. But we're going to have some things revealed. They will be revealed. People will see them. And it's going to be a challenge for a lot of people because, well, to be truthful, they don't have a lot of faith in what Jesus said already. Mm-hmm. And that's what they could work on right now. So this weather phenomena, it's going to be brutal. It's going to get very brutal. Lives are going to be lost. I can't emphasize that enough. There will be events that consume lots of people at once. There'll be other events that consume, a few here and there. But collectively, they're going to be brutal. Nobody's going to be immune from what's coming, from what's happening, from what's forming. And if what's happening in California, because we have a band of moisture traveling around the planet, that's only getting worse. We have heat shears coming, right? Heat and cold shears are coming. So atmospheric rivers is going to be one of those common terms, but they're going to have to develop a whole lexicon of words that describe very deadly events, and they're going to have to be very careful in doing it. We didn't have this level of moisture last year. We did not. The ocean temperatures are steadily increasing, and the icebergs are flipping over. They're exposing the dark side of icebergs. It's like a dark greenish, bluish color, right? They're flipping totally over. And what that means is they're breaking away from the surface underneath. They're starting to flip. That's an indication that two of the ice sheets are about to break. When they start flipping like that, that means the cohesion on the ground level of these icebergs is lost. The erosion has taken effect, and these things are flipping. So that means two shelves are going to totally break off, and people are going to endure what they don't want to endure. And I know that a lot of people say, well, God's not going to destroy the earth by a flood. No, he will not. He said he will not destroy life on the earth by a flood. He never said we wouldn't have floods. In fact, Jesus said there would be earthquakes and all these things in diverse places, right? Floods. We're going to have floods. Coastlines are going to be changed. Erosion will take effect. Highways are already buckled in California. Nobody's going to escape that in the Midwest. There are serious reconsiderations of NORAD taking place. I know everybody thinks that's a solid facility, but erosion is a big deal now. Right? Magma's eroded or made new channels in a lot of places. Saltwater intrusion is taking effect, and things are changing quick. They're changing very quick. Mm-hmm. So those things to look out for, to get prepared for. Yes, radiation can be, that can be mitigated largely. Get your bodies prepared to handle more and more things.
Right.
Don't try not to because it took me 10 years to stop consuming sugar, period. Right. Mm-hmm. It took me. Why? Because there's actually there's a little creature in the body that demands sugar. And people don't know this. Mm-hmm. And so in order to kill that little bug out of your system, you got to starve it of sugar. It cuts up and acts up too. It will affect you mentally, but it can be done. And believe it or not, when you do that, when you start to eliminate sugar, it sounds impossible, but it's not. The only reason I did it is because half the places you go that I go is just not available, and it's just terrible, right? So, but what I did find was your sense of smell changes, your sense of taste is different. For example, an apple that everybody says is not sweet, sour, this, that, and the other, it smells like the sweetest thing you ever smelled in your life. So creation starts smelling better, right?
Right.
But these subtle changes will help, because if it's going to be things like that will be cut off. Suppose they cut off sugar consumption, or it's rationed, right? Believe it or not, somebody may say, well, that's not a big deal. Yes, it is, because if they cut off sugar, it's going to affect people mentally, right? It's going to be something they lose. It can cause depression, because a person will say, I can't get this. My life is over. And what it exposes is that people have built their life around these comforts. And it's time to break those comforts. Do it yourself. Don't let anybody else do it. Do it yourself. People should do it themselves. Just break their own comfort a little bit. Start, not doing things, and see what it exposes in your thought process, your life, and everything else, and become strong again. Right. The body already knows what to do, right? The body knows what to do. If we don't lay it down with things like that, I mean, they're trying to make people consume a lot of metallic things, so they're better receptors of other things, right? That's no good. So if people would just back down on their taste palate, start taking a serious consideration of their diet. Personally, I know a lot of people use alternative products. Folks like yourself, Heidi, you're a nurse. I know you do homework as far as stuff like dietary stuff. I know you do your homework in that, but if people would do their homework in that, they would find out that God has already put small manufacturing facilities in place. They're called plants, and they take all types of ingredients and perfectly mix them together. They will produce something called a fruit, which when you ingest it is perfect for the body. God already has a pharmacy out there. We just have to get our knowledge back to learn what to harvest and what not to harvest. Right. And that takes a little time. So yeah, but that would be beneficial for everybody.
Yes. Yeah, and my son actually, he took a lot of botany when he was at Purdue just because he liked it. And
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's just like his hobby that he likes to do. And he was finding out he was having trouble buying peat moss. They're just not allowing it.
Right.
He's like, how do you not get a hold of peat moss now?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there are little quirky things like that all over the place, because beneficial things, of course, you're gonna, of course, things people can get a hold of right now, though. They better get a hold of it. They will not be available. They're shutting farms down left and right. Right. They'll give you a farm to grow some GMO corn and give you some money to do that. But if you start doing a natural farming, you're gonna run into issues and problems. Right. You just naturally will, and people are finding that out. Right. So people should look into that. It'd be a real good area of study. Educate yourselves and get ready, because things are coming quicker than any of us can anticipate. Right.
But he because he studied, he knows how to come up with his own peat moss. But
Yeah, that's awesome, though.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But yeah, we have to get healthy. We have to know what we're doing. Take care of ourselves so we can be strong to face these things. And the other thing is get strong in the Word and no fear.
Yes. Yeah. No fear at all. The same. I have a saying, Sister Heidi, is that our Savior, Jesus Christ, is the same one unleashing the seals. Nobody is worthy to loosen the seals, but our Savior is. Our Savior is not opening the seals for our destruction, but our full redemption. Our redemption process is going to be complete, not halfway. It's going to be complete. And so many of us already know there are areas of our lives we have not made a final decision in, and that time is coming. See, the world right now is not conducive of a final decision, because so long as it operates, people find themselves compromising in certain areas. When the world is damaged, when certain things no longer work in the world, we will not be compromised. That's when a person can say, that's when they can finally, they won't be pressed on all sides like that. And then that final decision can be made, because compromise is very real. It's just very real to a lot of people. They can't make a decision. Well, do I starve my family, or, do I starve my family and do it the Lord's way, or do I compromise and feed my family? They can't make that decision. And God is a merciful God, not some cruel lawyer. So he's not a lawyer. There's no fine print. It's straightforward. We choose him or we don't. And so he's going to help our decision. Didn't he say he'd finish the work he began in us?
Amen.
He's the author and finisher of our faith. So that those final decisions he will help us out with, and the world is going to suffer for that. Not us, the world. We're going to see that suffering. That's suffering enough for us. But we see it. We have that choice to make. The world is going to endure it. They will endure it. That means a lot of people we may know, they may endure exactly what the world endures, because every person has a choice. That choice cannot be forced upon anybody. And all this stuff all of it's coming, all of it's forming. Hopefully, everybody can see it and just stand up spiritual. There's no need for fear. Fear is a lie itself. It's not even real.
Mm-hmm.
It's a construct of the imagination.
Amen. I love to hear it put that way. It's a lie itself. Amen.
It is.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's the way to put it. You want to chime in on this, Pastor Paul?
I'd love to. You guys are getting in some serious discussion here.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike, I love the fact when you're telling us that, all the different things, the fake meat, the fake food, all the sugars, we have a saying that if it's white, it's not right. You don't want white rice, white bread, and white sugar.
White flour.
And white flour. It's all bleached.
Yeah.
And it's not
Yeah,
the
it is.
natural. It's not the natural, and it will affect your health. But mostly, Mike, I think when you said the 17 events that are coming, and you mentioned the unthinkable, I just have to ask. I can only think of a couple unthinkables. One would be a thermonuclear war, and the other maybe a deep impact. Are you hinting that one of those two is coming in 2023?
Yeah, one of those will come in 2023.
Yeah, if not both. One will come, folks. One will come. One will come.
One will come in 2023.
And so this is why we need to prepare people for such a time as this. Because, folks, reality is we're here. We're like James said, we're like a vapor on the water. We appear for a little while and then we vanish away. So you have to get your heart prepared, get your life prepared, get everything prepared, really. And mentally, I think, Mike, you've been telling us all night that mentally people have to prepare themselves for what's happening.
Yeah.
And there's only really the best ways in the Word of God. Am I right?
Yes. That's right, Pastor Paul. Because you know what, Pastor Paul, life is a one-shot deal. This is one chance we get. One chance.
So how we treat our neighbor, how we treat one another, it's being recorded, okay? It really is being recorded, and we've got to be honest with folks.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
Mike,
a one-shot deal.
One-shot deal. Mike, I appreciate you tonight being here. I'm sorry I wasn't able to do it, but I'll tell you, Heidi's always on top of it, and she does a great job. And you brought out a lot of powerful information tonight. I think everyone realizes that it's getting serious now. Remember when you first started talking to me on the air back in 2013, you told me about a lot of things that were coming. Down the road, we're going to see this, and a lot of things we're going to see that. But now we're talking about what we're seeing right now, and it's imminent, the events that is coming up on us now, isn't it?
Yeah, they are. We're actually in that time, and it's tough to see. It's tough for the average person to even deal with that we're in that time, but we're going to see more and more things. My biggest deal, Pastor Paul, how much proof does a person need to get their life in order? Fear normally comes from a person putting things off. If we do everything we know how to do, fear cannot be established in us. And hopefully everybody will do everything they know how to do spiritually.
Amen.
And they won't have to deal with fear. And most importantly, they can be of help to somebody else.
Yesterday, folks, may not know, but some of you have heard the interview I did with Mike over at my Patreon channel. It's the only place we put it because he brought some things out that we just couldn't talk about here on this open forum. But you need to go to Patreon and listen to what he said. A couple huge things he brought out that is significantly people need to prepare for. Right, Mike?
Yeah, and it's very unfortunate, but it's very unfortunate, Pastor Paul. Like, you can only imagine the aftermath of that.
Will this
Things are
change
very
the
close.
world when
They're
it
very
does?
close.
When this happens, will this change the whole focus of the world? I mean, the world body.
Sure it will. Sure it will.
Yeah.
Sure it will. That will actually. Sure it will.
Yeah.
And although, a lot of things sound they sound one way before it happens. After it happens, people normally say the same thing. I wish I would have known. That's what they say. I wish I would have known. And it's not about a person being right or wrong and all this kind of stuff. That's not what this is about. This is about humanity's preparation for the inevitable. Iniquity is rising beyond all levels. I mean, it's gone way beyond all levels. And people they don't really see some of the hidden movements of a lot of these nations. They are very real. They will never disclose them. But they're happening right before our faces. And they will ultimately consume quite a few lives. Ultimately.
One last question, Mike, and that is the hidden papers, or the Joe Biden papers now that have showed up or showing up here and there and everywhere. Is this the Democrat Party really saying goodbye to Joe because of these events that are coming? They got to get another leader kind of in place or prepare for 2024. What's going on here?
Pastor Ball, this is part of the governmental civil war.
Wow.
You're seeing governments you're seeing internal war.
Yeah.
At the governmental level is what you're seeing. This is a governmental civil war, and it's going to brand new levels. So people ought to get ready for that.
Appreciate your candor and your faithfulness, Mike. I'm going to interview you Sunday night at 5:00 for the webinar. Should people get their tickets now for the webinar? Should they get ready for what you got to say, Mike?
Sure. Yeah, they might want to buckle up twice for this one.
Oh my Lord! If it's
they might want to buckle up twice.
If you're going to reveal anything any stronger than what you did at Patreon the other day, I don't know. Maybe you'll go into
Well, there's
that
still
Huh?
Pastor, there's still a big picture to cover. There's a lot to cover.
Well, we need
a
that.
whole bunch to cover.
That's what we want you to do is tell us the big picture for this webinar, and yeah, you got a lot to say. I know it. All right, I'll see you then Sunday night at 5:00.
All right, Pastor, that sounds good. God bless you, Pastor Paul. General Heidi, Dr. Heidi, Sister Heidi, God bless you.
She's all three and then some, Mike, believe me.
I felt like I was in the principal's office.
Did you? Now you know how I feel, okay? I don't know if she's Dr. Heidi, General Heidi, or Sister Heidi, but she is the Commander Heidi, I'll say that.
That's great.
You're all right. Great. You survived the principal's office. You'll be fine. Thanks a lot, Mike, for being here.
God bless you, Pastor Paul.
God bless. Amen.
All right.
Mike from around the world, folks.